My name is Jack McHugh, and I live at 288 Windsor Street in Wooddale. And my wife and I are 35-year residents of Wooddale. Thank you for giving me some time to once again address you, Mr. Mayor, and the City Council. I have some questions. One is, I know that our city manager was good enough to forward to me a copy of the resolution that we forwarded to the county board. I think at the last meeting that there was going to be, that resolution was going to be presented to the county board between then and this meeting. My question is, has it been presented, and were we a lone voice in this whole issue, or how many of the other municipalities and mayors that it has been suggested to us we're going to be contacted and additional resolutions regarding this problem were going to be presented to the county board? So that's a two-pronged question, Mr. Mayor.
It was presented. My understanding is we were joined by Elmhurst and Addison as well. I'm not sure if any knows of any other communities that also passed the resolution at this point, but I believe those two did join us in the presentation.
And how was that received? How were those resolutions received? Were they acknowledged? Was there a response to them? Are we to anticipate some kind of a written response from the county board relative to our presenting them with these resolutions?
Mr. Douthwaite?
Well, as Alderman Cadala said a minute ago, he was at the meeting 2 days ago and asked for written responses to all of his questions. He got a verbal response last Tuesday morning that wasn't particularly encouraging, and we're still waiting for some sort of a response in writing from the county that memorializes what they told him Tuesday morning.
Alderman Cadala, isn't that a different body than the county board? Weren't you in a meeting with the storm management organization rather than the actual county board?
Actually, it's my understanding that members of this committee are also members of the county board. So it's just like here, while we're a standing committee like last week, same members are the council this week and make the final determination on what was discussed at committee level. So that's the only specific stormwater committee meeting that there is, that first Tuesday morning of every month that I'm aware of. How far up the governmental food chain we can go, and that I'll be able to sit in these meetings. I'm learning as we go through this, and I'll be at as many as I can. What I can tell you is the county stormwater committee, like I said, made up of board members, are aware of this resolution, but it was not on Tuesday morning's agenda to discuss it. So it's going to be up to us as elected officials and hopefully staff to do what they can to continue to encourage this county committee, stormwater committee, to get it on their agenda so that it can move up into their ranks and into a higher level of discussion at the county level. So just like here, it's got to start at committee before it can move up, and it hasn't been officially discussed at the committee as far as I understood from Tuesday morning.
And what does it take for the citizens, our government representation, to get a greater sense of urgency? I did listen to your report earlier, and you're right, it is not very encouraging.
Honestly, I don't know how to answer your question, not being an elected official at the county. So, I mean, other than encouraging anybody to show up there, and the more people that can give their 3-minute speech in the same subject, you might be able to hammer the point home a little bit better. Beyond that, I mean, other than any acquaintances we may have with any county officials, and some of us have some acquaintances, we might be able to kind of quietly lobby to move this up the food chain. But none of that's official, and until it shows up on a committee agenda, I don't know, how better to answer your question.
I guess our process, which I thought was more formidable than the original letter that was discussed probably 6 weeks ago that was going to be sent to the county, is one that also has no or little impact on our county board. So I understand that you went to the meeting, you represented us, the information isn't good, but what can we do as citizens and our governing body to move someone to action? I have a couple of questions, and that's really the underpinning of all of my questions is how do we move people to action?
My understanding is a little different than Mr. Douthwaite and Mr. Cadella conveyed to you. My understanding was that upon receipt of the resolution, they were going to authorize the engineering, which Alderman Cadella was talking about, which is looking at the protocol for opening up the dam at the Itasca Wooddale Reservoir and at the Bussey Woods, or excuse me, the Elmhurst Quarry Reservoir. So it's based on the receipt of the resolutions, which they already have, that they are authorizing the engineering to look at can they modify the protocols, and when that is received, then it'll come to the committee should we change our procedures. So I think they're already a step ahead of what Mr. Douthwaite and Mr. Cadella are talking about. As far as the direct influence you can have, the county board meets on the 2nd and the 4th Tuesday of every month, and that's 10 a.m. over at the county complex, 421 North County Farm Road. So citizens showing up there would be very helpful.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Relative to the specific issues of Windsor Avenue or Windsor Street, it depends on which sign you look at. I talked with Mr. Garcia, who was on the Water Commission, and he does recall, as I mentioned at the last meeting, the last council meeting, that there was a commitment made to the citizens of Windsor Avenue that we would have some kind of a report of finding 45 days from then. So we're now 60 days into that, and I understand that at the last meeting we were told that it could be as far out as 90 days before we would have any kind of a report on the study. My question to City Council is, why can't this engineering firm perform the studies concurrent on North Cedar Avenue in Windsor at the same time? And an opinion to that would be, if they can't, then we hired the wrong engineering firm. Why can't they do that? Why do we have to wait for the Cedar Avenue study to be completed and a report generated and reviewed on that, and then start the Windsor Avenue study?
It's my understanding that both studies are being done concurrently by two different firms. Is that correct, Dave?
No, the same firm, URS Corporation, is doing the North Cedar and the Windsor Catalpa, and we did set up that contract for North Cedar within 45 days, Windsor Catalpa within 90 days. The reasons for that is the Windsor Catalpa is the more complicated of the two. And also, honestly, I thought there was a much better chance of doing something on North Cedar this year, that I thought the fix might be a smaller dollar amount. Windsor and Catalpa, I'm really anticipating that their recommendation is going to be something to do with the whole storm sewer system out there and that detention basin at the northeast corner of Potter and Catalpa. I think probably the scope of that work and the dollars involved with that work are going to push it off into next year. And I also, you know, I'm hesitant to rush these projects through. I mean, I know people are frustrated and impatient, but we want to do it right. We want to put the time into it. There's numerous examples of quick fixes that were done in town where we spend a lot of money and they don't work, and I'm trying to avoid that situation, and I just would rather let this work its course. I mean, certainly we could have picked an engineer and we could have, you know, forced them to do any time frame we wanted, and you know, you can get that and you'll pay for it, but I really think projects like this should have some time to evolve on their own and get a good look at it, get a lot of different ideas and a lot of thought into it to get the best possible solution. So that's why we structured this way.
Mr. McHugh?
My response to that is there's an old saying about analysis paralysis. If you overstudy something, you'll do nothing. If you wait for the latest technology, you'll always be obsolete. I don't find that answer to be acceptable. And I think that there should be a sense of urgency to get both of these studies completed at the same time. So that's my opinion, and I would like City Council, and I'm speaking for a lot of people who are here again from Windsor Street, Windsor Avenue, pleading with you to raise the level of the sense of urgency in this matter. We just can't continue to postpone dates, to review contracts, to schedule things and review whatever it is that needs to be reviewed, because in the next 60 days, I'm going to have my canoe out, and I'm not real happy about that. I understand, in speaking with Mr. Marino, that this past week there were representatives from the city water department or city services in his backyard, in my backyard, and also in the gentleman over on Catalpa's house, doing some investigation. No one rang our doorbell to say we're here for this reason. No one suggested why they were there. I wonder if we can find out why people were investigating whatever the landscape, whatever they were looking at in the back of our property. And they were City of Wooddale employees.
Mr. Kramer?
Monthly, we do retention pond inspections. It's part of our just daily routine. So it could be part of that, or it could have been a service call requested to take a look at an infrastructure in either one of those properties or adjoining properties. And in doing that, we would have to investigate anything that was back there, sanitary, storm, etc. So I will look into it, and after you're done speaking, I can get your name and number, and I can contact you and let you know exactly if you can give me kind of a ballpark date.
Thank you. Lastly, Mr. Mayor, I hate to keep taking up so much of the council time. We discussed the possibility of an interim solution until we have the study and the results, and we can fund whatever the construction efforts are going to be to resolve the issues on Windsor Street. And you invited me to be a participant in a government citizen committee to do some brainstorming to present some ideas to the City Council. I can't tell you how disappointed I am in this disappointment, because as we speak, we are now scheduled to have a meeting a week from Wednesday. So 13 days went by since the City Council meeting before I was contacted to even say, would you be available on this day? That's not very encouraging, knowing that even if we sit in committee and come up with some ideas, that there would be any response. And this might not be received well, but when some of the initial discussions about scheduling our committee meeting, there was some responses about I can't be available at that time, and that's the time of the day I eat my dinner. I find this to be insulting, that if I'm being asked as a non-elected, non-paid city official to participate in a committee, and I'm willing to give up my time to do that for the betterment of the city, the betterment of my neighbors, that an elected official can have that kind of a comment. So, and further to that, I really want to know what's the result of we come up with some ideas in our committee. We say that we need these 2-ton pumps and 1,000 feet of hose or whatever, and is there any funding for anything like that, or are we just sitting around the table pretending? Is there any over budget allowance? Are there any emergency funds? If we come up with some interim solutions, is the city going to be able to say, you know what, you guys did a great job, those are great ideas, I think this is going to work, let's implement this?
Mr. Douthwaite?
The short answer to that is yes. There are funds available that have not yet been budgeted, but sit in what we call a general fund reserve. And that's essentially our rainy day fund, it's our cash in hand, whatever. And if this committee came up with a suggestion that if the committee came up with a suggestion that the council thought was doable, affordable, and wouldn't put an undue strain upon the overall budget, yeah, we've got enough flexibility that we could do those kind of things depending upon how much they cost and depending upon how effective they are. So are we like Bensonville with $1 million deficit and no reserve? No, we're in better shape than that. And we've got the flexibility to dip into that reserve if need be and if determined by the council that that's appropriate. But until we see what comes out of those meetings in terms of, if you want to call them quick fixes, you know, it's all an open question until you give us some alternatives and we have a chance to take a look at whether it's going to work or not.
Our committee meeting is next Wednesday at 4:35 p.m. here in this room. If any of the city council would like to participate, I know Alderman Police is going to chair it. I will be there. Mr. Garcia will be there. I don't know who else will be there. And we will report at the next council meeting what we think are reasonable solutions to an interim fix of this problem. I thank you very much.
Alderman, I think Eugene Wesley was trying to make a comment earlier.
Is there any way that we could let them know who our county board members are in our area for they could write
Our
to them?
county board members, that's a good point, would be Don Puhalski, Paul Fickner, and somebody needs to help me with the third,
Maria.
Rita Gonzalez.
Those are the three.
And anybody know the phone number at the county complex? 682-7, no,
Just have them call the city manager.
407-8000. Alderman Shockey?
If I may comment,
407-8000. That'll get you to the county operator, and then from there, they can direct you to the county board members or stormwater committee. Alderman Shockey?
if I may comment as the liaison between the Stormwater Committee and the council, which is having a meeting on the 16th of the month at 7:30. They will have Tony Charlton there, who is the individual that determines when the Wooddale Reservoir is opened. By the way, it's all in Wooddale, so it's just the Wooddale Reservoir, and as well as the Elmhurst Quarry. And if somebody can bring in their pictures of the flooding and so forth, so he can see, sometimes a picture's worth 1,000 words, to see the flooding that goes on before he opens those gates, that would be very helpful. That's September 16th at 7:30, right here. Plus, the assistant for Congressman Roscom is going to be here. She has something else to say about the bladder, something new. I don't know what it is. She will be here. If we're going to Congressman Roscom, I would strongly suggest that I not be the only one that sends Senator Durbin a letter asking for his assistance. You know, it's politics, and you've got Stroger in there, and Roscom can't do anything with Stroger, Cook County Board Chairman, but perhaps Durbin can, and if he receives a flood of letters from Wooddale residents, anybody who's flooding at all, asking for his help, because you know that water comes from Cook County. It's not, basically it's not our rainwater. What we get is passed already. We're getting that Salt Creek water from Cook County. And I would suggest that everybody call or email Senator Durbin. He has a lot of influence with Chicago, as you know, and maybe he can get something done about pushing or bringing up that bladder thing again and maybe getting it done. You know, you ask about what everybody's doing up here. John Cadalla went to the county stormwater meeting at 7:30 in the morning. I'm not even opening my eyes then. We have the Stormwater Committee bringing in Tony Charlton and Kitty from Roscom's office, and they're trying to help, and we're working with them to see if we can get any grants for any of these problems we have in flooding. So we are working on it, but it'd be nice if we had some of the residents helping politically by writing those letters to the appropriate people and asking for help. You know, when you come in here, it gets our attention. If you go to those people, even an email, if there's a number of them, that's going to get their attention. Thank you. I hope you'll help.
Alderman, please.
Yeah, I got a small problem. Dave, you said the engineer is doing one project and the other. They only have one guy working at that engineering firm. Why can't those jobs be done simultaneously? When we hired these guys, I thought the jobs were going to be done simultaneously. I never understood that one was going to be done first and the second one
No,
later.
it's not that. They're going to be worked on simultaneously, but the one job is bigger and more complex than the other, and it's just going to take more time. But they're working on both of them.
Just that one's taking long.
Anyone else wish to address the city council? I do have one bit of good information on the subject of flooding. The DuPage County Forest Preserve has purchased and closed on the Weinhofen property. And that residence will be demolished and removed, and that will open up 3 acres of open space along the creek for the benefit of the residents of Wooddale. For those of you that aren't familiar with the name, that would be the last house on the left on School Street, at the end of the street. I do have a written communique from Ronald J. Zito. Dear Mr. Mayor, in May of 2008, I sent you and the city council members a written request to do something about the condition of the street that I live on, Mulberry Lane. I followed up on that correspondence by attending a city council meeting and voicing my opinion. It took a while, but in the end of August 2009, Mulberry Lane, as well as some other streets in Royal Oak subdivision, were resurfaced. Our streets and cul-de-sacs are safer now, safer to drive on, and safer for our children to play on, not to mention the fact that they look a lot better. Thus, they contribute to maintain higher property values. At this time, I wish to thank you and the city council members that supported this project for keeping your promise. Thank you for resurfacing Mulberry Lane. Sincerely, Ronald J. Zito. I also want to make a proclamation of September 7th through 11th, 2009 as National Payroll Week. And that concludes my report. Mr. Manager?
One item, Mr. Mayor, just for your information. The police department had 2 assessors from CALEA, that's the Committee on Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies, on site at the department this week, doing a triannual inspection of our operating standards for the communications center. We expect that this will result in the 3rd reaccreditation for the communications center. Wooddale is one of 2 agencies in DuPage County whose centers are recognized for this high standard of performance. After the CALEA accreditation or reaccreditation of the communications center, next year we'll be taking a look, they'll be taking a look at the police department, the rest of the police department for reaccreditation. And that concludes the report tonight.
That brings us to the consent agenda. Is there any objections to any items on the consent agenda? Alderman Shockey?
Item 8, the sidewalk program.
That'll be removed. Any other objections? Alderman Wesley?
Mr. Mayor, can we revisit number 12?
Number 12 will be removed. Any other issues? May I have a motion to approve the agenda being items 1 through 7 and 9 through 11?
So moved.
Is there a second? On the question, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Now may I have a motion to approve the items on the agenda being an ordinance of the City of Wooddale, DuPage County, Illinois, authorizing acquisition of real property bearing property index number 0309413-015 for corporate purposes. Ordinance authorizing the sale of personal property owned by the City of Wooddale approval of Metro Train Station Change Order Number 1, approval of a contract with AdLight Electric not to exceed $34,514, approval of a contract award to Mark Kremsery Construction, an amount of $149,299, and Baxter Woodman, the amount of $18,500 for North Plant Excess Flow Pump Station. Approval to purchase a used stump grinder, an amount not to exceed $15,000. Approval of a contract Continental Construction Company for streets garage trench drain replacement, amount not to exceed $11,800. Approval of partial payment in the amount of $195,674.58 to M&Q Construction for School Street Reconstruction Project. Approval of contract award to Baxter and Woodman for Geographic Information System Final Detail Collection, amount not to exceed $38,500. And approval of the final payment request number 4 to John Neary Construction for the Clefstead Lift Station, amount not to in the amount of $8,922.56. Is there such a motion? Is there a second? Roll call.
Alderman Police?
Yes.
Alderman Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Cadella?
Yes.
Alderman Coles?
Yes.
Alderman R. Wesley?
Yes.
Alderman Shockey?
Yes.
Item 1 is approved as ordinance 09-23. Item 2 is approved as ordinance 009-24. That brings us to committee chairman reports, planning, zoning, and building. Alderman Cadella.
No report.
Public Health, Safety, and Judiciary. Alderman Shockey.
No report.
Public Works. Alderman Wesley.
Mr. Mayor, I would make this an affirmative motion. We recommend that the city council participate in the Addison Township resurfacing program in amount not to exceed $87,000 for the resurfacing Oak Meadows Drive.
Is there a second? Second. On the question?
Question,
Alderman Coles.
did we ever receive a bill to find out how much this project was from Addison Township?
Mr. Graff.
Project is basically broken out, just roughly 1/3 of the length of the street is the city's and 2/3 is the township. Our 80-some thousand, and then the township was 168,000.
168,000, we got, what are we gonna
That's all
pay,
the cost
89,000?
87.
87,
Well, again, their estimate was 78,779. I added a 10% contingency on that just because I haven't measured that length myself, and I don't want us to have to come back for a change order if there's some small quantity over it, so I added that part.
well, that's almost paying for half of a road that's only 1/3 that we're gonna resurface.
We're paying roughly half of what the township is paying, or 1/3 of the whole, that we're paying 1/3, they're paying 2/3.
Oh, if we're only surfacing 1/3 of the section for Wooddale, and they're surfacing 2/3 for the township, and we're paying half of the bill for 168, we should only be paying 1/3 of it.
Right, we're paying half of what they're paying, but of the total amount, we're paying 1/3 of that.
A little confusing the way he explained it, but in dollars and cents, we're paying $80,000, they're paying $160,000. So out of the $240,000 cost, we're paying $80,000.
Oh, we still didn't see a bill. You still didn't, did you? They're paying, all right.
I got the bid tabulation from
Okay.
them. I didn't get an actual copy of the
Oh,
bid
all
from
right,
them. I
okay.
did ask them for it, and I left a message with them.
Fine, okay.
Alderman, please.
I wasn't here last week, but the way I understand it is Addison Township's coming to us now for this $80,000. They could have told us last year, we could have put it in the budget. Right now, we would have to make a budget amendment for this $80,000. I understand it would be easier to do the street all in one shot, but we don't even have scheduled to do it until 2012. And if we're gonna do a budget amendment, I think we're gonna have other things coming up that we're gonna need money for budget amendments. Okay.
Alderman Cadella.
Well, if I remember right, this did not pass last week, and my argument was similar to Alderman Police's. We've got other places we need to spend the money, not on a section of road that we didn't even have on schedule till at least 2012. So just wanted to remind everybody that the way I remember it, we didn't even pass last week.
Alderman Roy Wesley.
Dave, have you talked to the highway department about their future roads, if there was any roads that